In this video, we're doing a full in-depth review of the Samyang 24mm F2.8. We're going to break down everything that you need to know so that you can decide if this thing's going to be right for you or not. Let's go! So there it is, the Samyang 24mm F2.8. This is an AF series lens, and we're going to be looking at everything that you need to know today, including build, performance, value, and everything that's important. So we're going to look at photos, videos, and we're going to start with build. But guys, if you haven't seen one of my videos before, my name's Stefan Malik. I do a lot of photography and filmmaking, news, reviews, and tutorials. So if you like this video, if you enjoyed this content, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Well, let's dive in. First, we'll look at a quick unboxing and the build of this lens, and here's a few specs to get you going. This is a Samyang lens, but you also might see it called a Rokinon lens, and it's just branded differently depending on where you're from. As usual, there's not much in the box, but Samyang has included a nice little travel case with this lens. And anything like this is always welcomed. It's nice to have a little bit of protection when you throw it in your bag. So obviously the first thing you noticed, and one of this lens's best features, is its size. This lens measures less than 2.5 inches wide by 1 3/4 inches long with the lens hood installed. And even better, it only weighs 93 grams with no accessories on it, making this lens fantastic for travel, street photography, and gimbal work. You'll notice that there's no buttons or switches on this lens whatsoever, and that helps with cost as this is a relatively inexpensive lens. It has 49mm filter threads, and on the front element you'll find an ultra multi-coating, which is said to increase clarity and sharpness by reducing lens flare and ghosting. On the back you'll find a metal looking plastic mount and a complete lack of weather sealing. The focus ring is firm and accurate and is electronically coupled to your camera. Although it is a mainly plastic build, it does feel well put together and somewhat reliable. As a whole, I give it 3.5 stars. At just $249 US, this lens is full of value. And there's not much to compare it to. You've got the popular and more expensive Sony FE28 F2, but that might not be wide enough for some people. Alternatively, if it's 24mm exactly that you're looking for, there is the Sony FE24 F1.4, which is an awesome lens all around, but very expensive. Because of the price of this lens, what it offers, and comparisons, I give it 4.5 stars for value. Alright, so let's talk performance. Don't expect miracles here, but expect better than expected. Like most things in photography and life, you get what you pay for. But like I said, there's value to be had here. And let's start with the autofocus. When it comes to video, this is definitely not the fastest focusing lens. However, it's pleasantly accurate. Another nice thing about it is it's basically silent. Aside from a few little clicks if you're really listening, this thing's perfect for video work, and because of its size, is going to be great on a gimbal. Also, face and eye tracking work just fine on this lens for both people and animals on my Sony a7 III. Like most of the Samyang or Rokinon lenses, the autofocus does perform better in stills rather than video, but it's perfectly acceptable for both. So let's have a look at the sharpness and the optics of this lens now. Now, wide open at f2.8 in the center, it's reasonably sharp. However, if you tend to venture outside of that, it's going to be noticeably soft quite fast. And that's a bit disappointing, especially when you stop down to f4. There's a tiny bit of improvement, but not much. Stopping down even further, all the way down to f8, there's a noticeable improvement, but still absolutely nothing mind-blowing. All the way down to 11, this lens is really never that sharp in the corners. And after about f11, you start to suffer from diffraction and it gets quite soft again. So all in all, this lens does suffer a little bit in the corners and is by no means anything extraordinary when it comes to sharpness. Also, you'll notice here that this lens does suffer from some quite heavy vignetting, especially wide open, and a little bit of distortion, but with profile corrections turned on, it's going to look something like this. Also, not the most impressive is the bokeh, and it is a 2.8, having 7 bladed aperture. It's just nothing out of this world. But let's have a look at the photography aspect now and see some examples that I've taken with this lens. When it comes to performance as a whole, there's not many bad things to say about this thing. Sure, it doesn't have the fastest autofocus, but it's not the slowest either. It is accurate. Sharpness isn't outstanding, but it's not terrible. But you do have to keep the price in mind. I give it 4 stars for performance. So wrapping up here, my final thoughts on this lens are fairly decent. I like the size, I like the weight. It's by no means a professional lens, but if you're on a budget and you're looking for a great walk-around lens, something for travel, street photography, or like I said, gimbal work, this is a great option for you. As usual, here's my personal pros and cons for this lens. It's great to see companies like Samyang giving us more choices, especially in the full-frame mirrorless market like this 24 where there's not a lot available. Rating this lens as a whole, for what it is, I give it 4 stars. And if you're a subscriber, you also know that I like to rate things on a scale from never think about again to consider to definitely buy. And in this case, if you're looking for a budget wide prime, this might be the answer, but if you're a little flexible on the focal length, I might recommend checking out my review on the 35 2.8. Either way, this lens is a consider. So there you go, there's your review on this little guy, the 24 F2.8. Hopefully all your questions have been answered. And if you're considering buying this lens, if you want to pick it up, check out the affiliate links in the description down below. That'll take you to where you need to go to buy it. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, if you enjoyed this content, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you in the next one.